Buster Posey is going to be the primary catcher in 2021, but Joey Bart, former first-round pick, top 5 pick for the Giants a few years back, broke in last year. He's the future of the catching position for them. So how's this going to shake down? You got 1 year left of Buster Posey. How do you see it, Dave?
I think it's going to work out really well for the San Francisco Giants. I think it's going to work out really well for Joe Bart because he's going to have a guy like Buster Posey. Just think of the resume. Rookie of the Year, MVP, 3-time world champion, 6-time All-Star. This guy has kind of done it all.
Yeah.
And he's at a place in his life and a place in his career where he realizes, hey, I've got something that maybe somebody gave to me. Now it's my time to kind of pass it along. And to be able to have somebody of his caliber kind of mentor you as a young catcher. Joe Bart, he may not understand it now, but he is a really lucky young man.
You caught for a long time. Was there ever a season where you were the elder statesman looking after a young catcher?
There was, but I do have to give out some love to some of my former managers who were catchers, former big league guys, Bobby Didier, Bill Plummer, who kind of poured into me as a young kid from this age of 17 on till I finally got to the big leagues. But later on in my career, I was playing with the Texas Rangers, and we had a young catcher there. He was already a star, but, you know, you're still learning. Even though you're a star, you're still learning. But Pudge Rodriguez, Pudge's locker was right next to my locker, and we, you know, he speaks Spanish, and I speak a little bit of Spanish. And we kind of just forged a good relationship to him. And one of the things I realized that I needed to do, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier in the show, was in order for me to kind of gain his full trust. So Texas is hot. I mean, it's hot, right?
Yeah.
So he would come in after an inning, and the first thing I would do is I'd just go and get a glass of water, come over and just sit it next to him, and then walk back away. And he's kind of looking at me at first like, what's he doing? But after a while, because I understand when you're catching and you're so tired, the water jug looks like it's a long way away. And for somebody,
that's too far.
And I had trainers do it for me, and I realized what a great gift that was for me to just come in and sit down. So it was just one way for me to say, hey, man, I care about you, and I'm here for you. So when issues come up between pitchers and catchers and signs and things like that, I always had his back.
Is it similar to like the quarterback stuff you see in the NFL?
Absolutely.
So like the quarterback that's been to Pro Bowls, took a team to the Super Bowl, but he's in his 30s. They draft the young quarterback. Similar thing there with catchers, right? And also similar, it doesn't always work out where the veteran guy is so happy that this young kid's coming to take his job. So it does take a unique personality. And we mentioned Buster. He's a man of character. And it takes those type of guys who say, okay, somebody poured all this info and knowledge into me. Yeah.
I'm at a place in my life now, I want to pour it into that next generation.
Let's pour it into our audience. Let's show you the last 30 years or so, other mentors behind the plate for up-and-coming young catchers. I want to start in the early 90s. Mike Scioscia was 33 years old mentoring Mike Piazza. How about that?
Boy, two great catchers right there. I mean, Mike Scioscia was kind of like the Rock of Gibraltar behind home plate, the guy who never let anyone touch home plate. He'd sacrifice his body, but he got a young kid named Mike Piazza showing up in a Dodger uniform, and I'm sure Mike understands how much Mike Scioscia meant to him.
They signed Charlie O'Brien, the Braves did, so he could mentor Javi Lopez. How cool is that?
Charlie O'Brien, one of the great receivers in baseball. I mean, they loved to throw to him to receive, and that was one of the weaker points of Javi Lopez was his receiving.
Yeah. So
he helped Lopez gain the trust of that pitching staff.
In the mid-90s, Joe Girardi working with a young Jorge Posada.
Well, we saw what happened with that, right? 5 world championships, I believe they won together. And again, Joe was kind of like where Buster is right now, a guy who has done a lot. So he had the respect of the young catcher in Jorge Posada, and he was able to pass on some of that knowledge.
Mike Matheny mentored a young catcher named Yadi Molina, who he would later manage.
The captain. I played with Mike when I was with the Milwaukee Brewers. He had this young kid coming up. He understood. He won a few Gold Gloves, and he was able to pass on some of that knowledge to that next generation. And I think in the game of baseball, that's kind of what you do. I mean, it's kind of the joy of as you're rounding out your career, was to be able to pass on everything somebody taught you to the next guy.
And we bring it back full circle. Bengie Molina deserves a lot of credit for mentoring Buster Posey. So Buster had that guy too in his career, and now he's going to be the mentor.
We just think about some of these names that we had, guys that have had 10, 15, even more up to 20-year careers behind the plate. There's so much knowledge that you have just because of the experience to be able to pass it on to a young kid to say, hey, hey, try this. See if that works for you. And to be able to go out there and then actually apply it and it works, and you're like, wow, that really helped me.
To learn from someone with so much wisdom, so much like grace.
We all need that in life, right? We all need mentors.
He's my mentor.